Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now today is Sunday, so you know what that means. We're going around the net with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. So, on the docket for today, we have Walmart. Yes, Walmart getting into the travel game. We have a potential good update coming to Hyatt's booking system that many of you may be happy with, especially if you're sitting on a lot of points. We'll touch on the FedNow platform and it going live and what it could mean. And we will close following up on the Apple Card Goldman Sachs potential split up. We have some interesting details that includes the Apple boss, Mr. Tim Cook himself, being denied for an Apple Card at one point. So of course, if any of that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Now, we're going to lead off with Walmart and Walmart Plus. So if you're unaware, Walmart Plus is kind of like their membership service that allows you to get, I think special pricing, you get quick shipping, things like that. You might be more familiar with it because there's a coupon on the Amex Platinum for it that gives you, your Walmart Plus membership kind of for free every month, or you get to use the coupon for it. Well, Walmart Plus is now getting into partnership with Expedia so they can break into the travel space and add a travel component to the Walmart Plus membership. So they have a full press release here, but the points you're going to want to be aware of is what you get. I don't think you get that special Walmart luggage case, but you probably should, honestly. But really what you're going to do here is you're going to get 5x back on hotels, vacation and car rentals, tours, activities, and more, because there's always and more. And you're going to get 2x back on air travel. Now, these are multipliers. Basically, you're going to be earning Walmart cash. That's how it's paid out. And they also have a co-branded portal, if you will, to Walmart Expedia travel portal. Again, no different than how Chase and Expedia used to do it back in the day and how others have used it. Obviously, it's still powered by Expedia. You've got Walmart branding on it, private label it type deal. This time around, you'll just be earning Walmart cash. Now, I think you just log in with your Walmart Plus membership. I don't believe it's credit card specific, which I kind of think they missed a tie in there if I'm Walmart to kind of run even more business through my Walmart credit card. But it could come in handy for some. I also think it's funny that you can now get a Walmart Plus membership through a Platinum card, then totally avoid the Amex travel portal if you really hate it and go through the Walmart portal. So if we've got any Walmart fans out there, let us know if you're going to try this out. Now, while we're going to stick to our travel theme, we're going to Hyatt. Hyatt coming off of a bad breakup where they watched MGM kick him to the curb and rebound within a matter of hours to Marriott. Well, Hyatt is back in the news, this time with a refresh of their travel booking system. So this is kind of like focus around the user interface when you're actually going to go, book either through cash or rewards. Let's take a look at what they have coming up, set for sometime early next year. And so what we're working on, there's 3 main bullet points, but they're switching providers to Sabre or Sabre, however you want to say it, their central reservation system. So it's, again, early 2024, sometime in 2024. They didn't really get specific, but you're looking at 3 main bullet points that they called out in the press release. So flexible calendar search, guest searching for availability will have a more intuitive and efficient calendar views, including key dates when special promotions are available, as well as when World of Hyatt members can redeem their points for the highest value. You're going to get enhanced room and rates view, which is nice, and then more efficient booking, which is always nice as well. So, of course, we'll have to see how this plays out, how feels, actually from a user interface standpoint. But overall, these seem to be good things. It seems like they're going to make it easier for you to figure out how cash versus points compares, as well as maybe factor in the dates when you can and can't use points blackout dates, which is good. And I think it can also be somewhat maybe attributed to we've seen, outside companies kind of come in and focus on, hey, if you just book through us, we'll show you the best use of your points across all these travel providers and, give you the best answer. And historically, I think a lot of these chains, whether it be airline or hotel, have, intentionally skewed their user interface and bookings towards cash over points. Again, even if you're going to book like a Delta flight, it's not easy to see them all at once. Cash plus miles, and then miles. You have to use a toggle that refreshes the whole thing. So you're really on the side kind of jotting down what the prices were so you can do the math. So if this is how I read it and they do it correctly, then you would be able to just see all of it. It's 35,000 points or $500, whatever it might be. which is really good. So I think outside competition has kind of forced them to stop hiding so much and like, hey, you're giving us these points, don't make it, I mean, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do, but make it easier for us to use these points. So again, we have a ways to go on that release, so we'll definitely keep our eye out. I know we have a ton of Hyatt faithful out there, so again, let us know how you normally book and like what you hope that they bring in this travel system. Now with that, coming back home, we're talking about FedNow. So we've covered this before, so we'll touch on it briefly. FedNow is basically the Federal Reserve's new payment. It's not quite a payment transfer system, I guess the best way to put it. It's very similar to ACH, Automated Clearinghouse. The main difference is that doing an ACH takes at best 2 days, sometimes 3 to 5, depending on the system and the banks, how close, how slow they are. Obviously, you can't do it on the weekend and holidays. So FedNow is basically saying, hey, we'll allow you to send money instantly, just very similar to how you would do a Zelle or a PayPal or something like that, and that it ends up there. Venmo, I guess, is the other one. It ends up to your friend, instantly. Right now, of course, they want to transfer it out of their account. That takes longer because that uses ACH. So, it's live. It's, I would temper expectations a little bit. They do have 35 partner banks to go live with, but there's still some work to be done on the bank's end, right? It's like this service, and if the bank wants to use it, then they have to build out the infrastructure, probably using they'll provide a toolkit and APIs and whatnot to do it. Also, both banks, the sending and the receiver would also have to have FedNow built out as well. As I understand, it's actually a misconception. I think that like ACH isn't actually free. It's like free to us. Like banks don't tend to charge us directly. I mean, they make up their money, by either having account fees normally or having, minimum balances or minimum deposit requirements, and they make it up that way. Plus, the majority of people outside of business accounts aren't really doing that many ACHs, so I end up being in the minority sending money back and forth all the time for these bonuses. This one is actually more expensive, so I do think banks will actually position this as I'm going to quote and say a value-added service, meaning they will probably charge you for instant sends or instant transmissions, if you will. I think because we can do, the thing is we have real-time payments now. That's not new. Some banks can do that. When I move money from Chase to Citizens, like that happens instantly. I think Chase to Bank of America has done it too. So this isn't a new thing. It's just another form of sending it. So I do think the rollout's going to take quite a while of adoption because, again, the banks have to build stuff out. So we'll see. I do think it could come in handy, especially it'll probably have to be priced cheaper than a wire, I would imagine. So if you're trying to buy something, like you're in the dealership and trying to wire them funds, or maybe you're at a closing for a house, I see use cases like that. Not necessarily I'm just trying to pay someone back, because then you might as well just go through the already free ones, being Venmo and PayPal and things like that. So it'll be interesting to keep our eyes on. Now with that, we move to, of course, my favorite story of the week that a few of you actually sent me. And that is more details on the Goldman Sachs and Apple fallout, if you will. So, maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about how Goldman Sachs is shopping the Apple portfolio, and they were talking to American Express about purchasing the portfolio of the Apple Card, because Goldman wants to get out of, the consumer retail business, what I would call regular people banking, right? And, on the surface, it seemed like, well, that's crazy. You have the Apple Card, a marquee name. Why would you want to get out? Well, now we have more details on how Apple basically just showed up and kind of fleeced Goldman a little bit. Not to feel bad for Goldman. I mean, they're expert bankers, so, they knew what they were doing. But this article comes from 9 to 5 Mac, or Mac Rumors, who got it from The Information. So we'll go through some thoughts on this. But there's some few interesting points. So first of all, what the article really gets at is that, and this is a quote, former employees at both companies, so Goldman and Apple, who worked on the Apple Card, said executives were not prepared for how difficult it would be to combine Apple's West Coast tech approach with Goldman's New York-style banking culture. While Apple was more focused on the sleek technology and product pizzazz that drew in customers and kept them happy, Goldman prioritized regulatory compliance and profitability. There's also a funny story in here that says, Apple boss Tim Cook was trying to do UAT, or user acceptor testing basically, and to apply for the Apple Card, he was denied. Now, I want very much to make that the headline of this video, but it's kind of misleading. he was denied because he's a famous person, so they have red flags in their underwriting, to look for those type of names. That's why he was denied, but they did get him a one-time exception. It's funny they wrote it like that, a one-time exception, just trying to make it sound like they're not giving special treatment. Another point in this also says that Goldman was waiving their cut of the merchant or the swipe fees or the interchange fees as well, and they can't charge annual fees or, there's no late payments, there's no annual fee, there's a foreign transaction fee, so the only money they really making is interest. But we've also talked about in a previous article about how they had to set aside a ton of money to support all of the accounts that basically busted out because they had to give a wide net, ton of credit limit. All that to say, I do think it's fair to say that Goldman got a little bit fleeced here, but I also think it's easier to make fun of Goldman. I don't think their mistake necessarily was trying to partner with Apple like this. If you're trying to launch a consumer brand and you grab a marquee name like Apple, I don't think that's a bad thing, and I can see them laying out an ultra favorable deal. The issue, as we've always said, is that banks are sales floors, and at Goldman and underneath the Marcus brand, they have nothing to cross-sell to make up for this loss. I think that's the biggest miss. I also believe that Apple's probably not keen on sharing customer data. I mean, you can't even apply through Goldman Sachs or Marcus. You have to apply through the iPhone. And of course, Goldman gets some of the information to do the underwrite and things like that. But if you don't have anything to cross-sell and make up for these losses, then you end up kind of stuck. So I just think it was poorly thought, or maybe they thought their consumer division would be farther along. I don't really know. So then the question becomes, where do they go? Well, one of the articles goes on to say that I don't think you could move them to Amex so soon, because I think that you still have MasterCard in the mix as the payment network, and MasterCard contract, I believe, goes through 2026. So, you could move them to American Express. American Express isn't going to want to handle a MasterCard. Half of American Express's business is being a payment network of their own card. So I don't know about that. In addition to that, if you go through this deal, good for Apple for saying, hey, we're going to retain all of the interchange fees from Goldman. I assume MasterCard's still getting their cut and the payment processor's still getting their cut, but you're going to keep all the interchange fees from Goldman. I don't know who else would go for that deal of the Power 5 banks, because in the last video I listed who I thought it was be. I said I don't think it's Amex. This just strengthens my resolve. I said Capital One was probably the leader. Chase could do it, and then I gave a wild card to Wells Fargo and somebody else. I can't remember the other one I said, but no one would sign that deal. So really, is it in the best interest of Apple to try to concede a little bit more to Goldman? Say, all right, look, fine, we're going to be a decent partner and try to help you where we can to make this somewhat profitable for you to an extent, right? But they are partners, because if not, where do you go? You have to go to a lesser bank. I know a lot of people threw out Synchrony, but I don't see it. I don't see it at all. I don't think Synchrony can do this. They don't take on that much risk. I think they were on the Reddit news for closing accounts now to lower their risk tolerance. So I don't know. The other thing, I do think it is good that Apple was focused on the user interface. I don't think Apple was necessarily wrong. And the quote also describes how these things normally work. We get a fintech company. Now, Apple's not fintech, but usually there's a tech component to build out the user interface. Think SoFi or think Chime, something like that. And then we rely on a bank to handle regulatory and compliance. So that deal isn't totally off. I think Goldman just thought Apple would have maybe more of a focus on, hey, how do we actually make money on this? When I think Apple really just wants to use it to sell iPhones. So I find it fascinating. We will continue to watch this story unfold as we go, so let me know down below. Does this change your opinion of it? Do you think Goldman totally messed up on the deal, or do you think it was smart and they're just missing the cross-sell? Does this change your opinion on who would be interested in taking on the Apple portfolio? Now, love to get your thoughts on that. But anyways, guys, that has been the news for this week. So, of course, if you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel, because we're posting content just like this every single week. And right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was. Of course, every single day over on profitablecontent.com, the channel's website, where we have the latest news stories, credit card offers, and bank promotions going on. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon this week.